What's going on, guys? It's the Money Talk Show with Dane, where we talk about all sorts of interesting topics having to do with money, especially or particularly crypto and real estate here. So, if those are topics that are interesting to you, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. We really appreciate you jumping in, and make sure as you're coming in that you comment where you're tuning in from. We love to see where you guys are tuning in from. So we are working extremely hard to help people bridge between entrepreneurship, real estate investing, and crypto. In fact, we feel like crypto is the biggest opportunity over the next few years, and it's not even freaking close. So we're here to help. We're grateful to have you on and share our ideas and thoughts. Love your guys' ideas and thoughts in the comments. Corey, take it away.
Yeah, man. Corey Geary here. Crypto Millionaires with Corey Geary, because that's what we do on this show. Is we like to interview a lot of crypto millionaires and pave the path for future crypto millionaires, because I really believe we are the bridge between real estate guys and the cryptoverse and all entrepreneurs. I guess it's not just real estate, but if you just have an open mindset and you're ready to take on this journey with us, we would love you guys to join. Hit us up any given time for help, support. If you want to be part of our community, we got a massive community that's growing pretty fast, man. And hit us up if you're interested. But man, it's been a great journey so far. So yeah, let's see what's going on, man. What's going on
Yeah, that'd be
today?
good. And in fact, I'll put the banner down below. If you guys want to come and check out
Yeah,
what we've got going on, here's our link. You can schedule a call, no pressure, but you can come and feel free to pick our brains and see if you want to be part of our community. If you're a real estate person potentially interested in raising capital, and you're a crypto person looking to put your capital in real estate to preserve it, um, there is no better place. So pretty cool.
absolutely.
We've got a few people in this morning. What's up, Frank? Frank is one of our good friends we met at the Pulse Chain Conference a number of months ago last year. Great to see you, Frank. Like the interview of Funding Jim. Funding Jim's great, man. That was
It's
fascinating to be
yes.
able to see a guy that took a very conservative approach to things, or yeah, I guess that's probably a fair descriptive word with being a doctor and investing in real estate and making the jump to crypto.
He, he
Love
he's a
love that.
he's a very intellectual, big brain kind of person, and a lot of his ideologies are so out there, man. Like it's just he's so deep with everything he talks about, and I love that. I love the idea that we have these kind of people in our community I think they're way more intelligent than myself, right? And so like I always want to be the dumbest person in the room. And so like
Yes.
having someone like him who fully supports the ecosystem, fully believes in the ecosystem, thinks it will even do 1,000x, just to hear from him, knowing that he's got so much more experience in just everything in life than I do, real estate and crypto and just, business alone. And the fact that he comes from that place and is super bullish and it reassures me that I'm at the right place at the right time. It's just, man, I couldn't express it any better than that. But yeah, man, it was awesome to have him on.
Love it. Yeah, Frank says set the stage for more interviews with him. Absolutely. We're excited to be able to have him on again. We're excited about all of our guests, man. We've been really blessed to have some really cool guys on. There will be more cool people on. In fact, Randy Hilarski will be on tomorrow. There was a scheduling issue on my end. We were going to have Randy on a little bit different day, but he was flexible and kind to be able to jump on with us tomorrow. So make sure you don't miss that. That'll be a lot of fun to be able to tune in with him. Jeremy's on. What's up, Jeremy? Icosa, the secret hidden gem. If staked to gain massive yield, absolutely.
It's retarded.
Oh, it's nuts. Yeah, it's been fascinating. What's up, Cryptorama? Great to have you on. Once again, if you guys are tuning in, comment where you're tuning in from. We love to see where you guys are tuning into the shows from. It's great to see where we're building community at. Got a great question here. Can you explain the safest way to stake PLSX or Watt and what you would recommend new to staking? This is a great question. Yeah. So let's get into this a little bit. We don't have, we can't stake Pulse X unless you want to go and play around on the test net.
Or
And in
what?
fact, Yeah, or watt. That's a great point. But you can go and play around on the test net to go and stake both of those and see what it's like. In fact, when we get version 3 of Pulse Chain testnet, that should be, for all intents and purposes, we don't know yet, but we'll have to see, but that should be, for all intents and purposes, just like Pulse Chain mainnet will be like.
Yeah.
And so we'll be talking a lot about that on the shows once it launches, and that'll be an opportunity to be able to go in and practice staking your PulseX, your Watt, and checking out what's going on there. So great question. Just be patient for now. And we're waiting for version 3 of Pulse Chain testnet. So
Yeah, and TG to we probably might even do some screen sharing when testnet comes live. Maybe we do an example of how to go and stake your PulseX and maybe do some compounding. If you watch a couple videos back with who was that? Pulse. What was his name, Dane, with the compounding of PulseX?
Pulse. I think it was Pulse Extreme or
Pulse Extreme. Watch that YouTube TG, and then we really dived into about staking and compounding our stake and strategizing around that that game theory. And so we'll be doing probably some videos on it, and yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. But neither one of those assets exist yet. And when they do, I think it's gonna be fun. I think both of those assets are absolutely amazing.
Yeah, we're excited about both of them, but be careful out there. Once again, neither of those have launched. So if you see anybody touting that you should come and buy them and stake them,
it's fake.
It's a scam. They're not real.
And for you guys who don't know what Watt is Power City.
Yeah, great point. Great point. And also, if you're new to staking, so a really quick summary on staking. You're essentially taking tokens on a protocol that allows for staking. You're locking them up in a smart contract, and dependent upon the protocol and the tokens and how they work, for locking them up in a smart contract, you get yield. So pretty exciting. In fact, we'll talk more about that today with Icosa and Hedron, which are both just going insane. So
I can't. I'm like a little kid with that stuff.
Right. What's up, Alberto from Phoenix? We got some more Phoenix guys in.
He's part of the community, man. He just joined last week.
Oh, yeah. What's up, Alberto? Yeah. Alberto's in our group. Yeah, that's right. Yep. Great to have you, Alberto.
Yep, glad to have you.
Tin Top's on. What's up, Tin Top? Great to have you on.
Tin Top.
Jen Hex is on. Morning, gents. Awesome. Great to have you guys on. So let's start with why don't we start with the Hex pump? That's a good place to start.
Yeah, so I really feel like we're man, I mean, I'm not the hugest chart guy, but I did learn a little bit of TA. I learned about I was in this other group where they really taught it a lot, and so I wanted to learn it. And man, we're forming a bull flag right now. It looks extremely bullish if you're a TA guy. And so here I'll even show, if I can share my screen, I'll show you real quick.
And another show that we're going to be having, so Jenkins from the Hex community, we have next week. He's a big TA guy. In fact, he made a call at 3 cent Hex where he is like, not financial advice, but chart's looking strong. And I was, as part of my DCA, I looked at that. I was doing some charting as well, and I was like, you know what, I agree. So I went heavier on that day, and it's turned out to be really good so far.
Yep. So here's the chart. You can see the bull flag forming there. Anytime you have a run up and then you have some, up and down movement, and it gets tighter and tighter and tighter, usually that means a continuation, whether it's the upside to the downside, depending on where you're running up or down from, that's what it means. So this is a bull flag, and you can see right next to that, all that blue is liquidity. So I have the chart set up in a way where you can see the LP and Uniswap. And you can see it's up to the upper side. We don't have a lot of liquidity left. Now, obviously, when it moves in that zone, the whales will be moving the liquidity over. A lot of people like to talk about, when we hit this zone, it's going to fly because there's no more liquidity. No, that's wrong, because when it does hit that zone, whales will be moving their positions over because they want to capitalize on those fees. So it doesn't mean that we're going to enter in moon territory, but the bull flag is, like I said, once again, pretty bullish for the ecosystem. So literally, like, Someone else had mentioned on Wednesdays, Richard
You use
Hart.
your cursor there, Corey, and like kind of point to the liquidity and show what you're talking about.
Can you see? Oh, okay. There
Yeah,
we
we
go.
can see.
I went to Pulse Bitcoin. Can you see now?
Yep, we gotcha.
Okay, so right here is this is the V3 liquidity pool. Over here, these are the positions that are in the pool. It's right, it came right here in the chart. TradingView has this feature where you can add it in. It's really cool. I think one of the community members actually created this app that can be added in TradingView. And so if price is moving down, this is the pool that it's affected in. And we got a lot of liquidity to the downside. There's a gap here. But on the upside, see here, it's pretty it can really go fast when it hits that area. But like I said, a lot of these guys in this area would just move the liquidity up here. That's what you'd see. So this is a bull flag here. It's already looks like it started to break out. We might have another pullback that comes down into the flag before we bust out, but that could be literally, today, tomorrow, the end of the week. People have been saying Richard Hart. I've been giving updates on Wednesdays. I guess the last 2 or 3 V3 updates were on a Wednesday. Who knows if it's just coincidental or not? So maybe we get a pullback and then maybe it shoots off. Who knows? Either way, it looks really cool.
So, and for those of you that are less aware, so I'll do a really quick synopsis. So liquidity simply means it's the liquidity pools that make it so that we can be able to swap between different pairs. And so, for instance, if you have HEX in this example, and there's nothing else to swap it to, well, what good is it? If you can't cash it out or do anything with it or trade it to somebody else for goods and services, that's not really good for anything. And so we need a liquidity pool to be able to swap assets back and forth. And so Corey was showing there on the chart, there's different lines, there's different bars that represent liquidity in the HEX. That was probably the HEX USDC pair, wasn't it?
That's correct.
Okay, cool.
That would be correct.
So HEX is paired with USDC with it, which is a stable coin. We won't get into the weeds there. But long story short, people can go in and they can provide liquidity and they can earn fees. So you can put your USDC and your HEX up in the pool. And as people trade that pair, there's fees that are generated and you get some of those fees. And so that's why people do it. And you can see that the liquidity, the longer the bar is to the right, the larger the liquidity is there. And it makes it harder. If it's above price, it makes it harder to move through. There's more price action. There's more liquidity that needs to be eaten through and chewed through in order for price to appreciate further. And similarly, if there's large liquidity below where price is right now, then it makes it harder for price to move to the downside rapidly because there's more liquidity to chew through there. And so, Corey, go ahead and point your cursor up to where it's really thin up there with those little tiny, yep. So what is that pricing right up there?
So up in this range, that is, like that. Oh, let me do this. I got to unzoom the screen. Oh, here we go. Up in like the 5
it's like 5 to 7 cents.
But I'm telling you, once we kind of get up in this range here, where we're hitting the 5 cent range or close to the 5 cent, a lot of this liquidity down here at the bottom will come up in here. You'll see a transition in real time. Like it's a lot of people like to think, oh, once we get in here, it's gonna be moon time. Well, no, whales aren't idiots.
Right.
So, a lot of these people down here, they're hoping that it drops so they can pick up some nice deep bags, and I think once it starts going up, a lot of these guys start getting a reality check. Hey, it's not going to return back down here anytime soon, or if it ever does, let's go ahead and move our positions to be more realistic. And that's when you start seeing the shift start to happen. But I mean, we're already kind of, if you ask my opinion, we're on the top end of it. This is like that's all it's left up here. I mean, look how much we got to the downside versus the upside. I mean, it wouldn't take one big player could eat through that liquidity fairly quick. I mean, it could happen literally in a day.
And will you put your cursor on where that liquidity is really thin up near, what is that, like 5 to 7 cents? Yeah. So just go up just a hair, just above that. Yeah, right in there. So you guys can see those blue lines where they're really small. They're just going off to the right, just ever so slightly. Maybe I'm not doing a great job of describing this. Whereas the blue bars below, those longer ones represent greater liquidity. And so
Correct. Right.
these are factors you can take into account when you're considering buying to be able to see where the market makers are thinking price action is more likely to go, depending upon where they put their liquidity. And we're not chart masters. There's other people in
No.
the group you can look to for that, but we understand generally how this works. And so we wanted to make sure to show you guys this in preparation for, man, as Richard is giving more and more updates, we're about version 3 pulse chain testnet. We're just seeing really strong price action. In fact, were you in the Telegram or the Twitter space with text or Hex Tangent last night at all?
I've been popping in and out of there periodically. He's doing what is it? What would you call a marathon until we hit 5 cents?
Oh, it's going and going. It's been great. So go check that out if you guys haven't. I popped in at just like a very opportune time yesterday, and they were talking, and they were saying that pricing is forming a floor. They anticipated, at least some of the guys that are a lot smarter than me, were anticipating that they would see more of a floor around 3.5 cent hex. And the fact that it appears to be forming more around 4 cents, they were pretty freaking bullish about that. So
yeah, so that means that's your DCA spots. So guys, if you see it, I mean, in my opinion, not financial advice whatsoever, but if you're trying to pick up some more bags, I would say, for whether you're trying to do, some buy the rumor, sell the news, or you just feel like I missed out a little bit on my long-term holdings and hex, and you want to try to pick up some more bags, maybe around the 4 cents could be a good idea, because we just don't know. And maybe it does go lower, but I mean, I don't know anymore, man. I'm starting to get in the sense that, V3 is going to get announced, and then we're just going to see a massive pump. And of course, we'll see a pullback after the massive pump, but will it return to 4 cents? I don't know, man. It's really, really hard. That's you got to really speculate on this. So I like the idea to always preach DCA. It's such the easy answer. It's such the right answer to any question that you may have, when the right time to buy, or should I buy, or like you hear it all the time, how much should I buy? DCA. Always DCA. So that's just my answer on that. But yeah.
Absolutely. And dollar cost averaging, if some of you, I know we got some newer guys on, dollar cost averaging just means that rather than buying at a single point in time, that you're buying little bits over longer periods of time on a little bit more consistent basis, because we'll never time the tops nor the bottoms perfect. And so if you're dollar cost averaging in, you should theoretically be approaching it in a safer way. So,
correct. And it leaves liquidity behind in your wallet. That way, if you get an opportune time to go more all in and do it, like you see every once in a while where the chart will get wrecked for an hour. Like you'll see this big wick, it'll go down, it'll touch say like right now, someone could dump massive amounts of hex, it could touch to 2 cent range for like an hour. And of course, all the limit orders are going to be picking it up. But I mean, if you have some dry powder and you're in front of your computer and you see that happen, you might want to get into Uniswap quick enough and pick up a bag if you didn't go all in the week before. It's like
right.
you want to leave some bullets in the gun till you can fire when you see an opportunity happen. And so that's why taking all your money and just going all in and it's just not the smartest move ever. You want to leave some funds behind, some dry powder, and that way you can take, because there's always opportunity. I guarantee you, even when stuff is pumping, there's still going to be opportunity, because there's just people who are, they're looking to exit out of the system, or, they pull the liquidity because they don't want to be a liquidity provider no more, and then they dump it. We've seen that happen before. And it's just you want to be ready.
Yep, absolutely. Great points. So another thing that they were talking about yesterday in the Twitter space that I thought was interesting, and I've heard this a lot. It's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. But a lot of these guys are anticipating anywhere from 7 cents to 20 cent hex. at
Sure.
some point, leading up to Pulse Chain launch. What are
I
your
believe
thoughts
it.
on that, Corey?
I believe it. I believe it will probably be in the. I believe it's going to be somewhere in the teens. Is what my belief is. Somewhere in the teens, because even off. Look at this little tiny bit of news that we got. We went from basically 1.8 cents all the way up. We have already touched the 5 cent range. We touched it and then we came back down. So we went from 1.8 to 5 cents off just a little bit of updates of V3. So when V3 actually goes live, or he announces the block height or whatever of V3 when it goes live, we just know when it's coming. Then I think we could easily see a 15-cent hex. So I think what's going to happen, this is all speculation. I have no clue what will happen. So this is not financial advice. I think it will pump up. We'll see that teen range area. I think we'll see a lot of buy the rumor, sell the news when that happens, even when the V3 launches. And I think we'll see a sell off, and it might get back down in the, I don't know, under 10-cent range in that area, is what I kind of think. And then it will kind of coast maybe between 5 and 10 cents leading up to Pulse Chain. And then when Pulse Chain, once he launches any kind of block height on that, we'll probably see it pump back up, maybe in the 20, 25-cent range. And at that point, I think we'll see another buy the rumor, sell the news type of event happen again.
Wait, let
And
me clarify. So you're thinking we see another pump into Pulse Chain announcement
I do.
mainnet, and then you think we'll see a dip after that? Is that what you're
All
saying?
speculation, man. I am just is
All
what I think.
speculation.
And I've got my long-term bags built up just in case I am completely wrong with everything, because we just don't know anything. I don't know. I wish I did. I got my long-term bags done. I was down there DCAing in the 2 cent range, making my market cycle stakes. So this is just kind of like I took a little bit of bag. I got some money, and I'm going to play some buy the rumor, sell the news events. I'm not going to be totally wrong with my estimates, but I'm not going to get wrecked doing it, because I'm doing it with only a very small portion of my bag. And so, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Though I'm going to play the game a little bit. I would like to earn, obviously, some buy the rumor, sell the news money out of the events if I can play them. And if not, then totally cool too. Like, I'm okay. But yeah, I feel like we're going to get a pump leading into V3. V3 happens. V3 will be out for 2 or 3 months. There'll be a cool off. There'll be a sell off. And we kind of go back under the 10-cent range. And then I think definitely when Richard comes out, because I do believe he's going to come out and announce an actual block height. And when the block height is announced, I would imagine we see another massive pump, even if it's for a short term. And then that pump goes up, and then I think we'll see a sell-off before the block height, before the fork. So you got to be careful with that one. I do believe I believe the pump for V3 will lead into V3, and it will happen during V3. This is pure speculation again. I think it'll kind of go into V3 and it'll kind of cool off, where I think the Pulse Chain pump will be very quick and sharp up to the right, and then right before the block height, complete dumpage.
Agreed.
Now, like I said, this is complete speculation. I could be totally wrong, but I'm not betting a lot of money. I'm not betting I'm not betting the farm on the buy the rumor, sell the news. But if I can make some, man, why not? Why not play the game?
Well, and that's and the reason that we say that, so I think it's good to add some context. This is very natural in the crypto, in the crypto sphere, to be able to see what's called, once again, the buy the rumor, sell the news type of event. That simply means when there's an event coming up, like Pulse Chain launch, for instance, traders will go ahead and buy before, and then they'll go ahead and sell before the event actually occurs. They'll front run that event in order to be able to try to get some quick profits. So that happens all the time, and it's very common. And in fact, Corey, so I'm coming more and more to the conclusion that I think there's 3 plays here. The first is to have some hex that you're getting at pretty good pricing right now, or you could play a little buy the rumor, sell the news, see if you can get a pump on that and a return. And you could have more capital to be able to bridge in for Pulse Chain or Pulse X or whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
The other
like
option,
all those plays.
Yeah, I like that. The third is to be able to have market cycle stakes. We talk about those a lot on our shows. We're not a huge fan of, staking out forever with Hex. really like having stakes into 2025. And so having those so you can take profits near the top. And then the third is to have, you could keep some liquid
Sure.
where you could have the opportunity if you wanted. And now be very careful if you do this. We'll do some more shows on the actual math behind the ratios. But if you want to participate in the ratio trading, you can go and swap some of that liquid hex for other
Sure.
assets on Pulse Chain, whether they be Pulse Chain or Pulse X or whatever they may be. Be careful doing that. I think the ratios are going to get bad very quickly when it comes to hex and
Yes.
assets that are paired with hex. A lot of people have been promoting that idea for a year and a half at this point. Feels like everybody is going to go dump their hex for Pulse Chain or
Please.
Pulse X.
Please,
And
guys, dump your
be
hex.
careful. Yeah,
There's a buyer right here.
we'll scoop that up.
There's a buyer right here. Gladly dump your bags into mine. Yeah, I like all three of those plays, and I'm playing a card from all three of those actually.
Right.
Just because I don't know. Like, that's why I did do market cycle stakes with my hex, back at the 2.5 cent range, because even though I think E hex is going to dump and P hex will be the main hex, I could be wrong. And what if they're both really do reach parity and they stay at parity for, like, because there's a benevolent actor who wants that to happen and he has the economic energy to make that happen if he wanted to. And so, like, I don't want to bet against him.
Right.
So I made some market cycle stakes to go, okay, if the narrative's right and he wants hex to be, a good price on both chains, man, wouldn't it be awesome to have some pretty badass stakes on both chains that you got for free because you went ahead and had the faith to make those stakes. So that's why I played that card. Now,
I like it.
yeah, but obviously, I live in the real world. If the benevolent actor doesn't do that, I do believe that E hex does have a high probability of dumping, and P hex being the dominant hex, because that's where all the whales will want their economic energy. Just because Pulse Chain is going to be freaking awesome, why wouldn't you want it over there? And so, obviously, with that theory, then you are going to do some of the buy the rumor, sell the news with your E hex, so you can get some more USDC, so you can bridge over and then buy some P hex, over there on the other chain, basically moving your economic value over across from one chain to the other. So yeah, just playing a card from everything, man. Because once again, with crypto, diversity is the key. And admitting to ourselves not knowing. And I love that. If you guys are not following Maximum Broadcast, follow him. He really talks about this a lot on his YouTube channel, is how he just has an admittance of not knowing. Let the ego down. Let the not knowing take over, and and play a card from everything. And if you hit one, great, and the others don't hit, okay, you hit one. But if you go all in on one strategy, the problem is that strategy doesn't play out well. As long as you didn't go all in, you're gonna be okay. But if you went all in, well, then that's gonna suck.
Right. It'll suck bad. And in fact, I love your guys' comment in the comments. So there's a lot of people. I think it's interesting on Twitter and lots of opinions, on what Hex may or may not do. Man, for me, if I were to onboard any of my friends or family or people in our group into Hex, once Pulse Chain launches, like, I won't be onboarding them onto EHEX.
Nope.
It'll be into PHEX.
Nope.
And so you guys comment below. If you have a varying opinion, I'd love to hear it. If you're the same, we'd love to hear that as well. Would you be onboarding your guys into PHEX or EHEX once Pulse Chain launches? Love to know your opinions.
Like I said, the only reason why I think EHEX does have a stand a chance to have a great future ahead of it is because it does have a benevolent actor in the ecosystem that loves it and will protect it potentially in the future.
Well, and there's a lot of economic energy in there. You know what I mean?
There is.
You're a whale over there.
Godwell alone owns a freaking truckloads of it staked out 555 and all the way down, right? And so obviously he might even be another benevolent actor who will help protect the price over there. Maybe it's not a quite to the same It might not be parity of what PHEX is, but even if it's a fraction of it, it's still going to be great. So who knows? It's just, man, it's so hard to tell. It's fun to speculate, though.
It is. It's fun to speculate. Green Day Power Crypto Show's on. Hey, appreciate you jumping in. Great show, boys. Thank you. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Mount Rushmore for regular shows to survive and thrive in bear market. Love the show. Appreciate it. Here's a great question. Been sitting on some dry powder for a year, waiting to buy HEX to swap for PLS. I missed the PLS sec. Now I'm thinking it might be better to just keep USDC and bridge it over to buy PHEX. Thoughts?
Diversify, my friend.
Yeah, you could play all the games. You could have some buy the rumors, sell the news. You could have some
PHEX
liquid to swap,
liquid,
some in USDC to be able to bridge over, and also your stables. Like the stable play is kind of a cool one. It's very conservative where you're protecting value, where you're going to get free copies of your stables. And I know for me, any stables I have, I'm going to be in there as fast as humanly possible.
Get rid of
dumping them for Pulse Chain or Pulse X because they're going to lose value very quickly.
Yep.
And so from there, I mean, you're just deciding on what you feel like is most likely, and then you play your strategies accordingly. If you want to play the buy the rumor, sell the rumor, buy the news, sell the rumor stronger, you can do that. If you want to, if you like the swap, then you can do that. But I'm telling you, Corey and I feel very strongly. I just don't think the play is to be able to buy a bunch of HEX and swap.
No, that's my least. So out of the three that we've been talking about here, that's probably my least favorite play. In fact, you guys all are doing that. I'm going to be buying the other direction. So even like pre-bridge, you guys are swapping your PHEX into Pulse Chain. You're swapping your PHEX into Pulse X. Well, I'm going to be going the other way. Just to let you know. So I'm the buyer on the other end of that strategy for sure. The other two strategies I like, but that one there, maybe you want to think about, here's something to talk about. If you really do want to swap some free ERC20s or PRC20s over on the other side, you don't have to use HEX either. I mean, there's other options. You can diversify into like maybe some Chainlink or SHIB or whatever. They all get copied over and they'll all have liquidity pools with Pulse in them. And if you're not going with the crowd, which most of them are with HEX, and you're over here in this liquidity pool, well, that liquidity pool is not going to be sucked up as fast. And it's going to be easier for you to grab economic energy out of that liquidity pool if you are trying to play that strategy. I'm not sure if HEX is the best one. It could be. Maybe Richard Hart does add a lot of liquidity. Maybe that strategy does work really well because he really protects HEX going in. But I mean, you got to remember Pulse X and Pulse are also his babies now, and he's got to protect all three of them. And when you're trying to protect them against each other, it's hard to do. But maybe think about other ERC20s that will have value. We already know the SHIB community is going to be adopting Pulse Chain. They've already talked about it. So it could be a play. I don't know if I'll be doing much of that myself, to be honest with you. But you could consider something like that, buying some Shiba Inu and holding that through the fork, and then you're not going to see this massive sell off of SHIB because of buy the rumor, sell the news of Pulse Chain. That's another thing. You can hold it probably comfortably through the fork without experiencing any too crazy volatility because of this event. At least I wouldn't think. Maybe you will. Not financial advice, right? And maybe you swap some SHIB into some Pulse because that liquidity pool will be there, and you're not going to have so much competition in it. But once again, I don't know. This is all more stuff that we're just speculating on.
So here's one of the plays that I've been thinking about a lot that I'm liking more and more. So we sacrificed for Pulse X. We missed Pulse Chain by a few weeks. Dang it. And so we'd love to pick up more Pulse Chain, especially we're going to need to, so we can go and be node validators like we're planning on. And I've been wondering, like, what's the best way to do that? How can I get the best bang for my buck? I'm wondering, and I think I'm going to try this. So I'll have to see what the ratio is like once we get in there and Pulse Chain launches. But I think I'm going to take a really small amount of maybe like 10%, 15% of my bag. I don't know. This is still I'm still fluid on this idea. And I love your guys' comment. Feel free to comment on what you think about this idea. But gosh, if you could go and swap just a little bit of Pulse X as fast as humanly possible for pulse chain. Now, let's say that you're going to get a crappy ratio. Let's say it's like 2-to-1, 3-to-1 for every 3, pulse X that you swap, you get 1 pulse chain. Now, I don't like that ratio. I'm not loving that ratio. However, if that's what it is early on and you can be there relatively fast, I think that ratio is going to get a lot worse. And so you're playing the game there. And pulse chain, in my opinion, if you hold pulse chain, you're going to hold all the freaking cards. I really believe that in pre-bridge trading. And so even if you're going to get a kind of a poor ratio early, if you could go pick up some pulse chain, and once again, for me, if I were to do this, it would be a small position of my pulse X because you just don't know what could happen. You don't want to shoot yourself in the foot with big plays where there's a lot of uncertainty. But gosh, if you could swap some pretty quick for pulse chain, it would give you a lot of power. Where near the end of the bridge of all the ratio trading, there could be some pretty freaking incredible deals to swap that pulse chain back to hex or to pulse X, or some of that. So
that's the only way, Dane, I would play that strategy. That's the only way I'd play that is if I could get in really early, grab like maybe a 2 or 3-to-1, right? And then you grab a bag, and then right before the bridge comes in, you get your money back. Basically, you're coming and getting your money back, and now you got your leftover pulse bag that you picked up via the swap going into the bridge. That's the only way I'd deploy that strategy, because I would not keep that. That's when you're swapping a 3-to-1 and you're accepting that swap, you're agreeing that pulse chain will 3x pulse X, and I don't agree with that. So even though the community is agreeing to that in the beginning, I don't agree with that. I think pulse X has a great chance of running hard in the first bull run. Obviously, pulse chain's the layer 1. It will probably do better over the long haul. I don't know, but I don't believe it's a 3x better ratio. So that's the only way I would do that. It's like that's kind of like almost like a buy the rumor, sell the news again. It's like you're coming in, you're doing the swap.
Welcome to a degen play. So once again,
degen play.
If you wanted to play a little bit, then play a little bit. But if, like I said, if I were to try that, it'd be a really small portion. And I'm telling you, I think being part of the ratio trading can be life changing if you're able to play some of your cards right. So we'll have to see. It'll be interesting.
Correct. Love it.
Yep. Jeremy says diversification is the key. Don't put your all eggs in one basket. Couldn't agree more. Jim says, I think PHEX will be better. RH says PHEX will be called Hex. That's a great point. Also, transaction fees will be much less on pulse chain. Your thoughts? Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
It's going to be so much better.
I think that's spot on. Simon has a good question. Which is better, DAI or USDC? I think at this point they're sixes, because USDC is largely taken over MakerDAO, which is in charge of, if not for better terminology, is in charge of DAI, if you will. They control it. And so I think you're sixes at this point. You can go back and watch our stream with Jesse, Just Ask Jesse, that we did a few days ago, where he talks about Liquidity, LUSD. That might be a stable coin to consider if you're going to be holding. But man, like
none of them are going to sustain value. They're all going to go to zero very fast, and you just got to be quick to react. USDC, they have admin keys; they'll turn it off. DAI, being that it's backed by Ethereum in the vaults. Same with USDL, or the liquidity. It's backed by Ethereum. I mean, that Ethereum's no longer there back in that stable coin over on Pulse Chain. It's just not. There's nothing to back it. There's no validity to the value, right? There's nothing that says, hey, this is worth $1 anymore. But there are liquidity pools that you will still transfer over. And so like you don't want to try to get out of, get as much, like Dana said earlier, swap your stables as quick as possible. And we saw this happen on POW. ETH Proof of Work and ETH Fair when it happened. I even did it. I was able to get in there on ETH POW and swap out some stables. And I think I got even like a million or a couple million in Hex by swapping with my stables that were almost, shortly after were valueless. They went to almost zero fairly quick. They just had some leftover.
I think it was within just a few hours, if I'm not mistaken.
It was. Yeah. I was able to get some on POW, but by the time I went to fair, by the time I went to eat there, there was no value at all, and the pools have been sucked dry, and I couldn't even do anything with my stable because I was a little bit late to the party on the fair side of things. So it happens quick.
Gotcha. Thoughts on waiting a few months after Pulse Chain launch to buy in on the potential big dips?
Nothing wrong with that strategy. That's a DCA strategy. Just DC. I have a very methodical DCA plan written out for me, where depending on the X's when the bridge comes in, I will be depending how much my DCA I'll be putting in, how much my dry powder I'll be putting in. And so a lot of it is based on that. Like if we just see massive pump out of the gate and it doesn't return for a while, then my DCA is going to be very slow, and I'm not going to be putting a lot in until it kind of returns back to reality, if you will. And then looking for those dips, like you had mentioned, Gen Hex, to go in with that dry powder and try to, get as much, as I can. So yeah, don't FOMO.
One caveat to that, though. So this is the hard thing, and I think a lot of
if it never comes back.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are making a huge misstep by saying like, well, look at the Hex price chart and it was better to wait. I'm going to wait and just buy the dips. Well, look, Hex only had like 5,000 people in at the beginning. If I'm not mistaken, that the math may be wrong on that, but there was a very small community.
It's between 5 and 10. You're right. It's somewhere in that area. Yep.
There was a very small community that was early in Hex, very small. But gosh, the amount of people now, once again, like compared to other projects and the crypto sphere in general, the Pulse Chain community is still very small. But gosh, the amount of people that are in Pulse Chain that sacrificed for it compared to the amount of people that missed out and have heard about it since and are really excited to get in. To me, it feels like there's a lot of freaking people wanting to get in. A lot more than I think there's a lot more that missed out or feel like they missed out or have additional capital now that they want to go in stronger than there are that people that may potentially want to sell. Now, we don't know. So it'll be interesting to see. But if price goes and runs hard, I mean, it might hit pricing that could leave you behind and never see again. So don't make an assumption that like it runs hard and we'll see some of that pricing again, because that may not happen. And so
that's why you don't want to stick completely out. DCA.
Yeah, you want to be dollar cost averaging.
Dollar cost average, don't sit all the way out, because I'm on the other side of the coin on that thought, though, is like I think that a lot of people will sell off. They're in pain. It's been a bloody bear market. Some of them hate Richard now. They want to get back at him. You see this like in the Zen chats, how people are going to dump and going all in Zen because they hate Richard. And
I love how they like think, oh, I'm going to get back at Richard by selling this great asset.
That's how they do. Yeah, it's like, I sell this beautiful.
You by shooting myself in the foot. Nice.
Right, I'll take it. Let's go. Like I'll be the buyer of your bags. And so, like, I do believe we're going to see some of that. And I do believe it's because it's been a bear market and people did over leverage in the Pulse Chain sacrifice and Pulse X sacrifice. People did use leverage and people went all in. They took loans. You hear about like, and once again, I heard in the Zen chat, one guy was in there and he's like, yeah, I got 10 people in the Pulse Chain sacrifice and I had to pay them all back. I had to pay every one of them back out of my money. And now I'm going to dump everything to get my money back. Well, go ahead and dump your bags, bro, and get all your friends' money back. Great for you, because I'll be the buyer. And so you hear this all the time, though, now. And like, the people, these people are in pain, and a lot of people did over leverage. And these people, we're still in a bear market, regardless of our little pumps and even BTC going up. I don't care. We're still in a bear market. The Bitcoin halving's not here yet. It's not here until 2024. And so I think the likelihood of a pullback is high. Now, will it? To your point, Dane, you're right. And that's why you diversify, you DCA, and you admit to yourself, once again, we have no clue what we're talking about.
No clue. Nobody does. And anybody that tells you that they know, and here's a common narrative, oh, it's just math.
No, it's not.
They don't know shit. They have no idea what's
going to happen. They're the worst. Those are those guys are toxic to our community, of my opinion.
Oh, it's the worst. Yeah. So anybody that I promise you, anybody that's like very sure about what's going to happen, they don't know. They just don't know. So be careful about being pulled into narratives when somebody is super sure and everybody's saying that one thing is definitely going to happen, be cautious. Be freaking cautious.
Yeah.
But back to this point. Once again, not super bullish on pre-bridge. Like that's dangerous. That's going to be scary. So if you're less sophisticated and you're very unsure, it's not a bad idea to just sit out the pre-bridge trading. That's totally fine. And if you are pre-bridge trading, I think Corey and I are gonna be watching like hawks to see if there's trades that we feel good about making there, but it'll be with small portions of our bags. Like we're not betting huge in there, and we're gonna be conservative and try to be as wise as we can.
Yeah, and if we get lucky in a couple good plays, then great. You know what I mean? Maybe we pick ourselves up a pulse bag before the bridge comes in, or maybe we pick up ourselves a nice, massive P-Hex bag. Because I think if we get P-Hex, I think that's going to run effing hard if it really drops down to like the 0.001 or whatever. That's going to run harder than Pulse and Pulse X because everyone's going to be buying that up because they feel like the value of that, well, right now the value of that is 4 cents or 5 cents. And the community is still going to think the value of that is what that is. And they're going to buy it all the way up to that. And meaning if you could take a portion of your bag, go into the P-Hex, kind of like to your point earlier, Dane, get that bag of P-Hex, let that run up on you, and then take a small portion and buy your position back or whatever you traded for it, whether it's Pulse X or Pulse. And now you got yourself this large P-Hex bag that you can do market cycle stakes with or do whatever your heart desires with. And it's just, you could be it's your opportunity to be maybe a dolphin, maybe a shark, maybe a whale, depending on what kind of economic energy you're playing with. But it's definitely, I think there's some opportunities that'll be in there.
Right. Absolutely. Jim asked a great question. Have you guys touched on your favorite sacrifices and non-RH projects, value your opinions? That's a great idea, Jim. We'll do a show on that. That's a whole other show. We should do that.
We could do a whole list of sacrifices. I can even talk about some of the non-RH stuff that I play with and that I have my eyes on. I do have my eyes on a couple different things that I'm waiting for.
That'd be a good show too, because Corey and I differ in opinion. That's probably where we differ the most. Yeah. And so I think it'd be good to talk through different thought processes and lay those out. That'll
be a fun show.
Yeah. But let's jump in. So we've done, what have we done? 47 minutes. We haven't even touched on Icosa and Hedron yet. Let's do that fast. So we've got a few more minutes. I think we can do that in 10 or 15 minutes though. So Icosa and Hedron have been absolutely cranking. The yield has been insane. The project has been around for almost 6 months now. And the reason that this 6-month marker is really important is because they're in order when you go and you participate in Icosa, the first hex stakes that were created and sold back to the Icosa contract, well, they've been recycled once, and a bunch of those were recycled again, and they will be hitting, I believe it's next week in one of the, I think it'll be theoretically the third biggest day for auctions, if I'm not mistaken. Do you know anything differently, Corey?
Second biggest day, and actually leads to Jeremy's comment right here. Jeremy had asked, can you touch a little why Hedron Icosa yield is going to go nuts here in a few days? And that's exactly why. It's the second round of recycling of the HSI stakes. And
thank you. Yeah.
Yep. And we'll see a big influx come in the market here in a few days. So it'd be very interesting to see. And what's netter interesting to see is, it's Sunday. Hexcliff said Sunday. Yep. Netter interesting to see is that a lot of these 6-month Icosa stakes and 6-month Hedron stakes are coming due right at the same time of all this. So like you're going to see maybe some pullbacks maybe, but I think those pullbacks will be eaten up pretty quick because people are going to be wanting to capitalize on this next round of Icosa stakes because the yield's going to be pretty good. And so it'd be interesting to watch the charts going up and down and fluctuating around. It'll be interesting to see if we're going to have more buy pressure or more sell pressure because there's something on both sides of the narrative, both sides of each side is pulling it, right? You got the buy side because people are going to want that yield because all these HSI stakes are going to auction and there's going to be a lot of Icosa burnt. No, I'm sorry, a lot of Hedron burnt in these Icosa these Hedron auctions, HSI auctions. And then of course we have some sell pressure from Icosa. I had a very massive hedron stake coming due up here on, I think it's Sunday. And I actually forgot about it. I did the stake on the Icosa launch, and I went there and checked it last night, and it really threw me back how much I gained out of that. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do with this now? I guess I'll compound it and break it up and compound it and restake my hedron. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So
it will be a lot of fun. Let's see, Yannick here. Yeah, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Yannick. 94% off Icosa. Oh, 94% of Icosa is staked. Only 4,000 people in Icosa, 318,000 in Hex. Interesting.
Only 4,000 people in Icosa. Wow, that's a very interesting statistic that I did not know. Wow, we are.
Yannick, how did you get that data? Is that on Dev Huey's?
Yeah, Dev Huey or Crypto Sloth probably. He really goes deep in the analytics. Yeah, that's interesting. That means we're very early to the party.
Icosa, that's post funny. In the comments, Yannick, where'd you get that data? I'd love to know more.
Icosa has less stakers in the Pulse Bitcoin community, if that's true.
Interesting.
And I bet you Hedron's like 10 times that.
Oh yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hexclip says it's easy for people to front run it. The penalty is low. What do you mean? What do you mean exactly? Do you know what they're saying here, Corey?
Elaborate a little bit. It's easy for people to front run it. The penalty is really low. He's talking about the auctions. You can't front run if you're staked because you got to wait till you win stake. You could front run, be buying Hedron and Icosa now to try to get your position built in for, but I think we might be experiencing a little bit of buy the rumor, sell the news even on Hedron, because Hedron and Icosa have both been pumping. Whether it's a little bit of buy the rumor, sell the news because of these events that are coming up, or it's just because Hex is pumping. You got to remember, Hex and Hedron and Icosa are very tied closely together. They're very related. I would say like they're like cousins and brothers or whatever you want to call them, and they rock and roll together each other. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Maybe the only, I'm not sure what he means by front running. But
yeah, provide some clarity on what you mean there.
Yeah, buy the rumor, sell the news usually mean by what front running. So either scan, check for contract. Oh, okay. Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, you can go right on the blockchain and look at it that way. Yep.
Very cool.
That's been cool, bro. So it's only
4,000 providing that data. That's fascinating.
Wow, we're early.
I find that some of the time I feel I feel unsatisfied with my Hex position, and then I remember how much Hedron and Icosa I have, and that makes me feel great because it's like a levered play on Hex.
Sure is
participating in Hex by owning Hedron and Icosa, if you will, and gosh, like. Sure I find both of them fascinating. It'll be really interesting to see after the first year, because Alex, the developer of Hedron and Icosa, he burnt a bunch of Hedron, which is giving the majority of the yield in the pools right now. That's going to run out roughly after the first year. It'll be fascinating to see what the yield is like after that. But gosh, this first year is the time to be in and staking and getting the yield. And like Corey said, so let's probably leave it off on this, Corey. So with Hedron and Icosa, when you go and your stake is done or you've served your minimum stake length and you can pull out your yield, well, if you do that and you go and restake, it's based off the Hex T-share rate. And so you get a little worse position by going and pulling out and compounding your yield. And so I've seen a lot of chatter back and forth between like, do you just let it ride and not compound? Do you go ahead and compound? What are your thoughts on that?
So I believe in the Hedron staking pool, it definitely makes sense to compounding, because when you compound your Hedron, because you get Icosa, and you're only getting Icosa, when you compound the Icosa into the smart contract, it will produce way more yield than your Hedron will. So it's very, I would say optimistic or very good for you. I don't know what the word is. I'm blanking right
now. Optimal.
to go ahead and in that stake and go ahead and start the Icosa stake, just because you're going to be earning way more yield via the Icosa, and then you can restart the Hedron stake. So that definitely makes up for that gap. On the other end, Icosa, if you watch some Crypto Sloth stuff, I do believe if you're doing 80% I think it's 80% on average compound back in, then it's worth unstaking and you can shave off 20%. I don't know where I saw that. I don't remember if it was a Crypto Sloth video or if it was a Crypto Graphics. One of those guys did it and said if you can take off 20% of the top, recompound everything in, and that on average, depending on where the T-share rate is at, how quickly it ratcheted up, on average, that should get you the same position or something like that. If anyone in the comments knows the answer to that question, we would love to know. But that's what I remember hearing.
And one thing you could do too with your strategy in that respect is you could have, Corey and I have multiple wallets with various Icosa and Hedron stakes.
Pick it up.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be keeping, but I'm not going to be compounding, at least as my thought process stands now, subject to change. But I think what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to keep my original, my day one Icosa stake. I don't think I'm going to compound that. And I think that will be the one that I take my yield from my other wallets that I have, and I keep putting them into that one so I can maintain some of my early position and be growing and keeping my yield going while also having.
Let me touch on that though. Let's make sure you understand. So when you're putting in the new Icosa compounding or adding to your stake, the share rate that you receive will be at today's rate that you're adding in. You're not getting the day one share rate when you're adding in.
So are you keeping day one share rate on a portion of it from the day one?
Yes, you keep your day one share rate on the original portion that you had staked. That stays the same, but any new share rates shares being added in to that pool, now those shares are based off of today's rate. So you're not getting any better deal by adding that in. And remember, you're resetting your stakes time every time you do that. So you literally can just take that and put it in another stake, and it's gonna achieve the same goal, if you will, and you didn't reset your time on that stake.
I see what you mean. That's a good point. Okay, good point. Cool. Yeah, a couple of clarifying points here. The penalty to end stake early is so low on 180-day stake. You end your stake day 179, you take a 50.55% penalty on principal and yield, then you can compound and get a bigger share in the pool. I like it. I hadn't thought about that.
In fact, that was so good. Hex Clips is I'm taking a screenshot to remind me.
Yes.
I'm taking a screenshot of your comment.
That was an excellent tip.
That was powerful, bro.
Yes.
That was alpha. That was the alpha of the day right there.
Yes. Agreed. Thank you for sharing. Also, an interesting game mechanic, the lower the circulating supply due to high staking means you have a big bag. The contract minimum stay length is 270 to 360 days. Right. Correct. Absolutely.
Correct.
Yep. So theoretically, in time, the staking days should automatically be coming down as there's more supply available in proportion to what you have, and so you'll be able to stake larger amounts for less time, not percentage wise, but on a token basis, right? Am I saying that correctly?
Yep. It's about accurate. Correct.
Yep.
And I'm anticipating, like right now it's around 19,000. That breaks from the 270 to the 360 stake length. Like for example, when Sunday comes, though, the inflation from the system would probably bump up that 19,000. Maybe it goes up to 25,000, where you can stake up to for the 270. I'm looking. That's my. I don't want to break mine up. So I don't want to have 30 wallets.
You don't want to have a job,
I don't want to do. But I do want to try to mitigate the year if I can, and so I'll break them up over 4 or 5 wallets if I can. I'll do that. I just won't do like the 30, 40. You hear people say, "Oh yeah, I got 1,000 stake in each wallet, and I've got 50 wallets." Like, oh no,
it's a job. But the beauty is that you can design it however you want, right? If you're all right spending the time to do all that and pay the gas fees, then you can. And if you're more like us, where you're fine getting a little less compounding, but don't want a job, I mean, you can design it however you want. So lots of ways to play the game. Jeremy says, smash the likes. Appreciate everybody tuning in today. This was a show that, man, Hex Clips, thank you for the comment. You too, Yannick, and all of you guys that tuned in and commented. All this stuff helps the algorithm. So thank you. With that being said, we are going to have Randy Hilarski on tomorrow morning. And so make sure that you tune in tomorrow. That'll be a lot of fun. And otherwise, once again, if you want to come and check out our group or chat with us about strategy or potentially being a part of that group, you can see the banner in the bottom. If you copy that link, that's a link to our calendar where you can go and schedule time. We'd love to chat with you. Anything we can do to help, we will gladly do it. So with that being said, you guys, thanks for tuning in. We will talk to you tomorrow.
See you guys.